Here's what's coming up on Minnesota Vikings Now. 4 stories we're going to talk about. Could the Vikings trade for Kyler Murray? That trade rumor is back out there on the internet. Plus, signing JC Tretter to be the new center for Minnesota, given some ties to the new regime. Could the Vikings move back, trade down in the 2022 NFL Draft? And speaking of the draft, there is a new Todd McShay / Mel Kiper mock draft. We'll break down the 3-round version those two combined for, all coming up right now. You guys are watching Minnesota Vikings Now by Chat Sports. I am Tom Downey here with the latest that's going on around Minnesota, and that begins with more quarterback trade rumors. Despite the Vikings extending Kirk Cousins, well, the Kyler Murray rumors are back, at least to some people. Murray reportedly is not going to play, refusing to play on a new deal, or without a new deal, for his current team, the Arizona Cardinals, which is a problem for, I think, a lot of teams and players out there. Now, Murray's agent submitted an offer a while ago. That offer came and now has went with no real response from Arizona, and Murray's agent, Eric Burkhardt, has now pulled it off the table because there was no real response. And with the demand or refusal to play without a new contract, the trade rumors are back. Could Minnesota be in the mix, given that they could want to upgrade over Kirk Cousins? We'll talk about the Kirk complication here in a little bit. Now, Murray has his own complications, right? I call him Moody Murray. There are leadership questions with him not going back in the playoff game to end and not being at voluntary workouts. That was planned, allegedly, blah, blah, blah. Murray also struggled down the stretch as the Cardinals collapsed. 9 total scores, 5 turnovers, 12 fumbles. He recovered, or had the team recover all of them, but that's unsustainable. So you would bet the fumble numbers jump up in terms of fumbles lost next year. Everything went the wrong way down the stretch. I was also a bit banged up, but that is troubling. When it seemed like the true breakout was here for Kyler, it didn't continue. Continues a trend instead of Cliff Kingsbury as head coach and Kyler struggling in late in season. And that's a concern if you're going to trade for a guy like Kyler Murray, who you hope is your franchise guy, but you're not sold in the same way the Chiefs are, the same way the Bills are, the Chargers, etc. And there's the contract problem. Murray wants to get paid. I think at minimum, he's asking, I'm sure, for $43 million a year. He wants to get the Josh Allen deal, number 1 overall pick, right? Deshaun he blew a playoff game, not his fault, but his team did. Didn't play at all last year. Got $46 million fully guaranteed. So the contract situation for Murray is a lot for a guy that you might not be sold as your number 1 guy. And oh, by the way, the Kirk complication, or Kurt, as his old owner used to call him. Cousins was extended again this offseason. Trading him right now, which you'd have to do because you can't cut him, would result in a loss of an additional $3.75 million in cap space. So paying Cousins again makes this really tough. You'd be paying him $35 million to not play with you. Now, maybe you would be able to trade him, get an asset back, keep Murray's hit low in year 1. Easier said than done. It's not impossible, but it is very tricky to pull off. So would you trade for Kyler Murray if you ran the Minnesota Vikings? Y for yes or N for no? Sound off for me in the comments section. I'm going to make this the pinned comment of today's video, so if the ad break plays on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Coming up next on Minnesota Vikings Now, how about signing JC Tretter, trading back in round 1, and the McShay-Kiper mock draft? We'll get to all of that here. But first, if you haven't already, make sure you guys are subscribed to the Chat Sports YouTube channel. We'll be live, coverage led by your boy me, for all 7 rounds of the 2022 NFL Draft. And unlike ESPN or NFL Network, when we get to day 3, we don't interview coaches that no one cares about. We talk about every single player who gets picked. That's how I've spent all of my free time the past 3 months, is getting to know these prospects, doing my big board, doing my prep and research and scouting, all that stuff. So go subscribe right now, youtube.com/chatsportstv. That link will be in the comments and in the description. Next up is JC Tretter. He continues to be linked to the Minnesota Vikings, and in part because, look, Garrett Bradbury has not been great. Bit of a disappointment so far as a former round 1 pick. Now, there's also a connection, a personal one. Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, who of course came over from the Cleveland Browns, knows Tretter well from their time together in Cleveland. So I understand the connection here between Tretter and Minnesota. The need appears to be there. There's the connection, and I am surprised he remains unsigned. I wonder if being the NFLPA president is a problem for him. There are also whispers of some medical concern with Tretter. He wasn't practicing that much, per Brian Broaddus, one of the former NFL executive and scout. But I'll also make note he played all the games outside of the one game he had COVID. So, like, he was out there. I wouldn't be that worried about it. Shouldn't be enough to not let him play this upcoming year. And if you're not sold on Bradbury, I do think is a good fit for what Kevin O'Connell wants to do. A veteran like Tretter would be, I think, an instant upgrade. And if there are the medical concerns, then you got a great backup there in Bradbury. So what do you think? Do you want to go sign JC Tretter in free agency? Type in S for sign him. Yeah, let's ride. Bring him in. Or type in P for, I'm going to pass and focus elsewhere with my remaining cap space. Time to talk trade down in round 1. The Vikings have the number 12 overall pick right now. And Bleacher Report went through a trade idea for each and every team. There are actually 2 of them that involve Minnesota. We'll break them both down here. Both of them, though, were trade-back ideas. First up is this one. Minnesota gets a 3rd-round pick this year and a 2nd next year in exchange for number 46 overall. That is the first trade right there. Now, I will make note on this particular trade here. It's not great value for Minnesota. It's a less than what their 2nd-round pick is currently worth. Remember, 2nd-round future picks are typically worth about half of their value. So they're not getting an ideal offer, especially considering you would think that Chargers pick might end up being a pick in the 50s or 60s next year. But what do you think? We'll break down the second one in a second. Would you do that trade? A for accept, you'll take the 3rd and a future 2nd for your 2nd this year. Or D for, nah, I'm going to decline it. I would want more back if I were going to try to move down in this year's class. Sound off for me in the comments. A for accept, D for decline. And while you're down there, make sure you're subscribed, please. We're past the 3,500 mark. Thank you all so much. 4,000 is the next mark, and we're going to have breakdowns of all the things the Vikings do in the draft this year, so you really should be subbed. YouTube.com/Vikings today. This one's interesting. Minnesota gets 16 and 49 for the Saints to move up 4 spots in round 1. And now the pitch was the Saints go get their QB, even though 13, 14, 15 aren't going to take QB. From the updated trade value chart perspective, massive overpay. The Saints are giving up a ton to move up 2 spots or 4 spots to give a 2nd-round pick. That's way too much from the Saints. So yes, I would do this trade. I'll move down 4 spots. I might miss out on Derek Stingley, but I can take Trent McDuffie or a defensive lineman or somebody else and have an extra top 50 pick. That's a no-brainer for me. I just don't think the Saints would do it. That's not a good deal on their end. Our last segment of the day, the Mel Kiper Todd McShay combo mock draft. But they went 3 rounds on this one. The evens for Mel Kiper, odds for Todd McShay. The round 1 pick is one we've spent a lot of time on, so we won't spend too much more on it. Derek Stingley, the quarterback out of LSU. I love the fit. This is one of my favorite and most consistently mocked on my end team-to-player matches. Fills a need long-term. Him with Patrick Peterson is exactly what Stingley needs to develop in the NFL. I'm all for this one. Great job there by Mr. Mel Kiper for that pick. Now, before we get to the other 2 selections, which are different than what has been done recently by Todd or Mel, name a player who you guys want the Minnesota Vikings to draft. Let me know in the comments right now. Round 2, about a tight end. Trey McBride. Irv Smith, who I think we all hope is tight end 1, is coming off injury and hasn't Well, the breakout year didn't happen this year. Tyler Conklin is gone, and there is the need at some level for another tight end option. Now, Trey McBride is the consensus tight end 1 in this year's class. And that I'll put consensus in quotes because it's not quite a fully locked in tight end 1. I think there's people who disagree. McBride's production for a tight end is off the charts. That does not happen very often. Not an elite blocker, though, and you wonder why he had 1 touchdown because that's a bad touchdown-to-catch ratio. Scheme, of course, matters, but that's very, very weird to have that big of a frame and have 1 touchdown catch. DeMarvin Leal is the pick here in the 3rd round, and this one's tricky for me. This is one of the toughest guys I've had to scout so far. The production's not bad. The traits aren't bad. The consistency is not there. 12.5 TFLs, 8.5 sacks. Here's the problem with Leal. You have a situation right now where he's not big enough and strong enough to play full-time as a 3 technique. He's not athletic enough and bendy enough to hold up at edge full-time. So you've got this weird tweener situation for DeMarvin Leal. And maybe 5 technique is his best fit. I had James Lynch tweener concerns, and maybe he's your upgraded version of that. 3rd is a lot better for him than the round 1 hype we had earlier this year. That was based on taking a big step forward, which didn't quite happen the way people wanted it to. So the 3rd round, I can get on board at that point. So before we go, I want you guys to grade the Todd McShay Mel Kiper mock draft. A, B, C, D, or F. Before the video ends, get in the comments section and let me know how you grade what those 2 comboed to do.